The European Union's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, says the Brexit talks are deadlocked over the UK's divorce bill, but decisive progress...
The UK's Brexit negotiations are stumbling, and farmers across Britain are concerned. Either there's Labour to pick the crops, or what?
There's no crops. We will have to start importing vast quantities of fresh food.
Farmers believe the UK government is scared of confronting the immigration issue, leaving them in the dark over who will be working in the fields.
The words migration, immigration are just dirty words in the UK now. We can't even talk about it.
And farmers are being caught up in the argument.
I had hate mail. You're taking work from British workers, you know, blah, blah. It's absolute garbage.
If the workers can't be found, fruit and vegetables will be left to rot in the fields, and you'll pay more at the supermarket.
We are facing significant labour shortages which will impact on the economy and on the ability of this nation to produce food.
This is Bloomberg's The Real Cost of Brexit. We have travelled to Kent in southern England. This region voted overwhelmingly for Brexit, but farmers are divided down the middle. Their businesses rely on migrant labour. 80,000 migrant workers are needed every year across the country. Brexit has put their future in doubt.
We think we produce around 5% of the UK's lettuce requirements.
Nick Ottewell is the farm manager at Lawrence J. Betts, one of Kent's biggest salad growers. He employs around 140 farm workers. Of those working in the fields, all are from Eastern Europe, most from Romania. They live on the farm and work for up to 6 days a week for £7.50 an hour.
So these guys are cutting the lettuce by knife, cutting it naked, and then it's coming up into this machine and it's being packed. This is what it takes to run a farm like this. We need people that can do that every day, all day, otherwise we haven't got a business.
Since the Brexit vote, attracting migrant workers has got harder. A survey by the National Farmers Union found the number of seasonal workers coming to work on British farms has dropped 17%.
If next year you can't get the people you need, what will happen? Can you just
explain it to us? I don't have a business.
Yeah.
That's what I keep trying to say to anybody that interviews. I do not have a business here without 60, 70, 80 people prepared to bend their back every day and work hard and cut lettuce. I do not have a business model.
And why can't those people be British?
We can't. I mean, there's two or three points I'd like to make on this. The first is that we're at 3% unemployment. So I can go down to the local job centre, I can find 1 or 2 people. I need 100 people here. I'm not taking work from British workers.
According to industry bodies, virtually all of Britain's agricultural seasonal workers come from the EU, most from Eastern Europe. Of the 13,000 workers recruited between January and May this year, only 14 were British.
You want to come and meet the workers?
Nick introduces us to Camilla. She's worked on the farm for 6 years and is now a team leader.
And where are you from?
Romania.
Romania? And most of the people in the team, are they Romanian as well? All Romanian?
In my team now, yes, it's all Romanian.
But you'd like to stay?
Camilla doesn't share Nick's concerns. She shrugs off Brexit fears and argues it's not hard to recruit eager workers.
No, it's not hard, because Romanian people need money and come back.
Despite Camilla's confidence, farmers are seeing the opposite, falling numbers of migrant workers from the EU. Nick's whole business relies on visa-free EU labour, but that will almost certainly stop post-Brexit. He's left asking, where will the workers come from? We're heading 30 minutes down the road to W.B. Chambers & Son.
So how many tonnes of fruit do you produce here a year?
We produce about 2,000 tonnes of raspberries, blackberries.
Tim's farm is one of the biggest berry growers in the UK.
In total, it's nearly 3,000 tonnes.
He employs over 1,200 migrant labourers, over 90% of which are from Bulgaria. He also voted to leave the EU, despite the decision complicating his business in the short term.
I'm very positive. I didn't vote for my business, I voted for the greater good of the country.
Tim believes leaving the EU will likely harm the UK economy, but in the long run it's the right decision. He also argues when Britain stops visa-free EU immigration, migrant workers can be found elsewhere.
The workforce can come from outside of Europe. The rest of Europe has a labour shortage, and other countries in Europe are already solving that by bringing in workers from Ukraine, from Belarus.
Although Tim and Nick disagree on Brexit, they agree on the problem. Tim's already finding it harder to get the workers he needs.
Early in the year, we ourselves walked away from 150 tonnes of fruit that we didn't have the people in June to harvest.
That's around 5% of the farm's monthly total. Tim didn't want to be specific, but he says his margins are tight and that loss significantly hurts his business.
For some reason, maybe the words migration, immigration are just dirty words in the UK now. We can't even talk about it, but other countries are solving their labour solutions and we're not doing it. And it's because of a political minefield that we've got ourselves into, where we can't even discuss openly this requirement.
On Tim's farm, a sense of being unwelcome in the UK and a falling pound is weighing on workers' minds. Some are already considering their options.
What would stop you from coming back next year? Is it about the money?
The first thing, yeah. If I have to pay too expensive visa to come here and work, it's gonna be like, it's not gonna make sense, actually.
Farmers and workers need to know at least a year in advance what the government's plan is. As the March 2019 Brexit deadline approaches, no one seems the wiser.
Speaking in London this afternoon, the Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, said he remained optimistic and wanted to see quick progress.
We've left Kent and headed up to London to speak with the National Farmers Union. They've been sounding the alarm bell about a potential labour crisis. We want to know, is the government listening?
Yes, but we are concerned that they don't properly assess the enormity of the problem.
Guy Smith is the NFU's vice president and an Essex farmer himself. He's calling on the government to give guidance on the sort of visa schemes farmers will have to deal with post-Brexit. His concern is the government doesn't know themselves.
We feel that the government are in the dark about what direction they're going to. Things are politically very opaque. We have an unusual political situation internally in Britain at the moment, with two political parties that seem to be in some sort of internal turmoil about how they should approach the Brexit challenge. Farmers need certainty for years ahead.
The NFU argues the government should introduce a seasonal workers scheme as soon as possible, because if no decision is reached soon, migrant labour could suddenly dry up.
So, for instance, abattoir workers, food processing factories, waitresses, chefs, they are disproportionately manned by migrant labour. And if you suddenly withdraw that labour pool from that food chain, you will have all sorts of dysfunctionality, which will then impact back on the farmer, who is the start of the food chain.
The union is warning next year will be worse. They're expecting further falls in migrant labour. Farmers are calling on the government to ensure their businesses are not jeopardised as the negotiations get tough. The clock is ticking.